American Studies, Chapter 2, Section 3, pages 48 through 51. Critical period. Objective number 1. Describe the structure of government set up under the Articles of Confederation. The First and Second Continental Congress rested on no legal base. They were called in haste to meet an emergency, and they were intended to be temporary. Something more regular and permanent was clearly needed. Second Continental Congress adopted the AOC to establish a more lasting form of government. Now, this government was not great. It was known as a firm league of friendships among states. A firm league of friendships is not necessarily a great form of steady government. So, objective number 1. Describe the structure of government set up under the Articles of Confederation. Government under the Articles of Confederation. Each state had one vote in Congress, no executive or judicial branches. Congress didn't have power to tax. Congress didn't have power to regulate commerce, or Congress couldn't make states obey the Articles of Confederation. So, this government under the Articles of Confederation was not very strong, as you can see. One vote, no matter the population, no executive or judicial branches, the Congress has no power. So, we would say this government is very weak. So, back to our objective. Describe the structure of government set up under the Articles of Confederation. Can anyone answer this question? Great. If you said each state had one vote in Congress, no executive or judicial branches, Congress didn't have the power to tax, Congress didn't have the power to regulate commerce, or have the power to make states obey the Articles of Confederation. Very, very weak government. So, leads us to our second objective. Explain why the weaknesses of the Articles led to a critical period for the country in the 1780s. 1780s, not that long ago, is it? Oh wait, yes it is. Very long ago. So, weakness. Congress lacked power. No power for the Congress to tax, regulate trade, and make states obey. So, if the Congress does have no power to tax, and they can't regulate trade, and they can't make states obey the Articles of Confederation. Very weak. No power, weak. Next, laws required. If you wanted to make a law, 9 out of 13 states had to approve. If you wanted to change or ratify the Articles of Confederation, you had to have approval from all 13 states. So if you wanted to make a change in the law, you had 9 out of 13. If you wanted to make a change in the government, ratify or change required all 13 states' approval. That's pretty hard to get. If we sat in this room right now and tried to have everyone agree on a decision, it probably wouldn't happen. So, now this leads us to the effects. What happened because of the weaknesses of the Articles of Confederation? Congress had to ask states for funds or borrow money, neither of which raised enough money. Excuse me. Why would Congress need money? What were we trying to repay? Something to do with war. War debts? Yes, very good, very good. Now, the other thing that the weaknesses of the Articles of Confederation made happen was this. States bickered. They argued. They were not on the same page with each other. They made treaties with other nations. So, you're talking about a state that makes a treaty with a different country. Not with the U.S., with a different country. Each state had their own military. Each state taxed the other's goods. They banned trade from other states, and they printed their own money. So, if you sit there and you say, well, it doesn't matter if you print your own money, it does matter for the simple fact of this. If you go out of state and you want to buy something in a different state during this time, well, you didn't have that money from that state, so you couldn't make that purchase. The third thing, violence. One of the big violence that happens during this time is Shays' Rebellion, and we'll get to that in a second. As economic conditions worsened, property owners, small farm owners lost land. They began to lose land due to not paying taxes and other debt. The states would tax the landowners, and then when these small farm owners couldn't repay the debt, they got their land taken away. If you get your land taken away, you're probably going to rebel. Now, this leads us into Shays' Rebellion, one of the big rebellions of this era. Let's see what happened. Daniel Shays led a rebellion at a local courthouse, causing courthouse to close. So, we talk about our rights and the right to protest. So Daniel Shays goes to the courthouse protesting the fact that he got his land taken. Not necessarily a peaceful protest during this time. It was more of a let's get all the farmers together and not peacefully protest and get the courthouse closed. So, not very good central government here as we talk about the Articles of Confederation. So, explain the weaknesses of the Articles. Explain why the weaknesses of the Articles led to a critical period for the country in the 1780s. So, what did we just learn is this question. Are we learning? Let's see. Explain why the weaknesses of the Articles led to a critical period for the country in the 1780s. Congress lacked power to tax, lacked power to regulate trade, and lacked power to make states obey the Articles of Confederation. Second thing, laws required. If you wanted to make a new law, 9 out of 13 states had to approve. If you wanted to make a change, ratification to the Constitution, all states had to agree. Again, not very good. Okay, next objective. Describe how a growing need for a stronger national government led to plans for a constitutional convention. So, what is the need? Why do we need a better government? Let's find out. So, need for a stronger government. The Articles of Confederation created a government unable to deal with the nation's trouble during this time. Demand grew for a stronger, more effective government. Why? Because the Articles of Confederation was weak government. Large property owners, merchants, traders, and other creditors were the most upset. So, movement for change takes place in Philadelphia. Anybody know what this might be called? Let's see. Meeting in Philly became known as the Constitutional Convention. I wonder what they're going to talk about at the Constitutional Convention. Possibly a constitution? Maybe. Constitutional? Key word. Probably so. Now, this began as an assembly to revise, to make changes to the Articles of Confederation. This evolved into a meeting of a creation of a new government. So, what this evolved into was the making of the Constitution as what we use today, because the Articles of Confederation was not very strong. New government, Constitution, the laws that we live by now. So, back to what we learned. Did we learn? Let's see. Describe how a growing need for a stronger national government led to plans for a constitutional convention. Anybody remember what we just talked about 30 seconds ago? Anyone? Yes. The Articles of Confederation created a government unable to deal with the nation's troubles. Why? Because it was weak. We talked about that. Demand grew for a stronger, more effective government. So, now, let's review Section 3, Chapter 2. What was the goal of the Articles of Confederation? Anyone? Let's see. Let's see if you're right. Unite the colonies, which are now states, under one central, through though weak, government, states together for matters such as defense and trade. Now, when the states ratified the Articles, they agreed to obey the Articles, correct? And all the acts of Congress, right? Did the states honor this agreement? Yes or no? No. How do you know this? States failed to support the central government, made alliances with foreign countries, and created their own money. Not good. So, this wraps up Chapter 2, Section 3, American Government. Until next time, students, make it a great day.